loves to introduce to you Adrian Scantlebury. Though he is a lawyer by profession, Adrian manages to effortlessly strike a balance between his career and his passion projects. Adrian Scantlebury is the owner of the Scantlebury Law Firm that offers its clients deep knowledge and rich experience across various industries and disciplines. He is also a gifted saxophonist and a community philanthropist as an active member of the Rotary Club of Liamega. And to add to the mix, he is also a family man. Today we warmly welcome Mr. Adrian Scantlebury to Good Morning SKN to explain how he balances all of those pursuits.
Good morning.
Hey,
Thank you for having me here.
That sounds like you're going to be in the hot seat.
Yes, I'm really happy to be here this morning. And before we get into the meat of the interview, I just want to commend everyone here at Studio 327, you good hosts and hostess at the Good Morning Show. It's an amazing show. I'm amazed by how you all have been able to gather so many interesting persons to be interviewed. It has really given insight to me in terms of what Syndicus and Nevis has to offer, and I'm very proud of everything that's being done here. I have to also recognize all the young persons who are behind the scenes. They are really the backbone here. So I'd say good job to all of you, Studio 327 and your good selves.
Thank you so much. That means a lot. All right, so in your introduction, we mentioned that there were so many things about you, and I did say that you were going to be in the hot seat because it seemed like we were going to ask you to explain how you balance all of these different activities. Mm-hmm. How do you find the time, first of all, to manage all of these different interests?
Well, firstly, it starts with my understanding of time, because it's not as though I am doing everything every day at the same time. I understand the importance of seasons. There's a time and place for everything under the sun. So when I look at what I want to achieve, I look at it on the basis of a daily analysis, then weekly, then yearly, and then I think to myself, when I'm 70 and I have no teeth in my mouth, I want to be able to look back and say, oh boy, I did all those things back in those days and have reflection. So what's important is what pays the bills. So work comes first. So you would imagine that will take up most of the time in any given day. Every day I try to, outside of work, before and after work, I try to do some form of exercise. In the morning, that's designated to cardio. I also try to do some devotion too. And in the evening, some gym time to try to build some muscles.
I like that. You say try to.
I've been trying.
Alrighty, so all of your interests connect somehow. Do they give you some positive energy?
I think how they connect. Mm-hmm. If there's a common thread among all my interests, I'll have to say it's my desire to be able to do everything. Mm-hmm. Now, sometimes that desire is natural, like I'm naturally drawn to some things. And then there are other times that desire is forced upon me. For instance, I have a car and mechanics want to cut style on me and they don't want to come and do the work or whatever. So I said, oh, you don't want to do the work? I'm going to be my own mechanic. So those are some instances where an interest is thrusted upon me. Now, having been able to accomplish what I've accomplished, and every different thing that I've done, it gives me a feeling of euphoria. Like, I did it. And that keeps me going.
I have to ask, does your car work after you try to fix it?
Oh, of course. You know, there's YouTube, so I just go there and figure it out.
I was going to say, what are you expecting to say? All right, so let's talk a little bit about your interest in law. You are a practicing attorney. How long have you been practicing law, and what about the law appealed to you initially, and what continues to appeal to you now?
I've been practicing law for a little over 17 years. I'm admitted to practice in Trinidad and Tobago, St. Kitts and Nevis, and also New York. I chose law. Or when you hear this story, you might wonder if law chose me. Sometime around towards the end of Form 3 in secondary school, we used to have a series of career guidance sessions. And in these sessions, they used to try to match personality types with career paths. And after everything was said and done, my personality, of all the careers that fell in into the group that matched my passions or at least personality, law stood at the apex of that group of careers. So that's what I chose. And I have never looked back since, and I find it to be very rewarding. It's a decision that I have never regretted. I even inspired my youngest sister, Sophia, to become an attorney as well.
Wow.
She got admitted in Trinidad 2 years ago and in St. Kitts last year.
Oh,
that's
nice.
amazing.
Congrats. Your law firm business card quotes Proverbs 11 and 14, which says, "Where there is no counsel, the people fall." What are the forms of counsel that Scantlebury Law Firm, and what about that particular scripture resonates with you?
Okay, well, we are largely a full service firm. We specialize in areas such as contract drafting, enforcement of contracts. So if someone doesn't want to stick to the end of the bargain, we enforce that. Debt collection, landlord and tenant disputes, company formation, and much more. All that information is on our website, which I designed myself.
Look at you.
Wow.
Yes, in terms of the scripture, about 3 years before I decided to open the firm, I was reading the Bible and I came across that scripture and I said, one day when I open my firm, that's going to be on the letterhead.
Speaking it.
You know, so I had it there preserved, and that's what that was about. Now, that means something very important to me because I find that in the course of practice, sometimes clients would come to me, and by the time they've arrived, it's like a hard case to win because of simple things that they didn't do beforehand. That kind of makes it an uphill climb to really succeed. In some cases, the door of justice could be entirely shut from them simply because they didn't know certain simple facts. So for instance, what people need to know just generally is that time is very important. In law, we have things like something called a limitation period. There are different limitation periods for different types of cases or matters, we could say. The one generally for civil matters, it's 6 years. For some matters in the magistrate court, it's 6 months. And generally, if you have a case against the government, it's also 6 months that you have to sue. If you don't sue within that period of time, your statute bad. You've probably heard about that. So what I recommend is that people, they contact an attorney as soon as possible, and don't allow negotiations to distract you from a deadline, because sometimes people, let's negotiate, I'm coming back to you, and meanwhile they are probably watching the clock. They're saying, tomorrow is the deadline, and drag it out, and then we no longer want to negotiate. And then you go to an attorney, try to file a case, and you realize that your statute is bad.
Problems.
Another important thing that I think people need to know is that you need to have the evidence for matters in court. So if you have an agreement with someone, make sure you have it in writing. I would say don't trust anyone. People coax you into thinking, oh man, we're friends and what have you, and man, we don't need to sign that, you don't need a receipt for this. I say get your evidence and make sure you store it somewhere safe. Don't keep things on your phone only. I've heard too many cases of people, my phone crashed and it fell into the sea, and something like that.
Evidence
Email things to yourself. And lastly, I would say get an attorney when you have a court matter.
When we invited you onto the show, we should have asked you to bring your saxophone.
I guess that's in a custom hole somewhere.
No, that was very good. How long did it take you to play like that?
I would have to say, is that a clear answer? I would say not long at all, but there's a bit of a history to it, if I could share it. I guess I'd have to say that I'm God-gifted. I think it's a God-given talent. Because when I was around 4 years old, I remember I used to peer through the window of the music room and look at the elder students play the recorder. And the first time when I got my recorder, which was a little after 4 going on to 5, I was able to immediately play all the songs that these elder kids used to play. So I continued playing the recorder up until around age 15. During that period of time, I dabbled with the steel pan and the quattro. And I also did music classes with piano. At the age of 15, I attended a Pathfinder camporee. And there I saw the street band, the music band, comprising persons who I went to school with. So they sounded really good, and I wanted in on the action. But I couldn't play my soft little recorder in a big band with horns and trombone and drums and so on. So I told my mother, hey mom, I want a saxophone. And Kenny G was trending at the time, so I asked for a soprano saxophone. My mother asked a man who we knew who plays saxophone, hey, how much for a soprano saxophone? He laughed at her and said, man, you can't afford a soprano saxophone. Well, the rest is history. I remember clearly it was the 14th of November 1996. My mother brought home the brand new saxophone. And after I spent about 2 hours trying to figure out how to set up the mouthpiece, I was immediately able to play the saxophone. I even played the song that he used to play in tribute to his encouragement for me getting the saxophone. So I would say that the years spent playing recorder helped me to transition smoothly into playing the saxophone. And of course, once I started playing saxophone, I got better over time.